you. Jessica Camerato, NBC Sports Philadelphia. Brett, now that you've had to take a second to breathe, how would you assess how this draft went tonight?
I think it went really well. I mean, it was extremely active. There was a lot of movement. You know, we stayed aggressive. We had targeted people, been targeting people for a while, and I think, you know, we were able to secure some of them and get picks. So I think the combination of, you know, bringing the people that we had sought and targeted and really tried to study, as well as keeping the picks in the future moving, I think that the draft went well tonight.
Dan Gelson, the Associated Press. Brett, Zaire said in New York that you compared him to Kawhi Leonard. Is that true? And do you see those comparisons? If not,
there is some similarities with his length. There is some similarities with his athleticism. I think that when you look at just where I believe Zaire can be, there are some common denominators that Kawhi had when we first brought him to San Antonio. In general, you know, I think, as I said at the beginning, I think that, he's going to be a work in progress. I think that, you know, there's lots to do. I think with a base that's really special, very unique. Some of those qualities that Kawhi had when we first had him in San Antonio, I do see parts of that in Zaire.
Kyle Neubeck, Philly Voice. Brett, you guys have now, I would say, 3 players who are part of your core in Zaire, Markelle, and Ben, who have different questions with their jump shots, and theoretically they need to play together. How exactly do you navigate that and work around that, knowing that they all need to?
Yeah, and this is true. I think Zaire is further along than other people do. It is true what you say that none of us would say that the shot is a huge part of the other, you know, that group of 3 people's game. I agree with that. And it's going to have to be something that we continue to put work into. I think that Zaire is going to surprise us. You know, I think that to put him into the growth that Ben has to experience with his shot, or, you know, the difficulties that Markelle has experienced, he's not in that arena. I feel like his shot is much further along. But to your point, you know, it is an area that we got to continue to develop all of them. And I think that Zaire, as it sits today, his shot is further along than I think other people think.
Brett, Sarah Todd, Philadelphia Inquirer, here in the middle.
Hey, Sarah.
Hi. I'd like to know how it was developing and what the process was like in that second round and making those deals. That's the first question. Second one would be just comment on Landry and why you targeted him.
Yeah. Let's go to your first question. The room is incredibly active, and you know, and you're on the clock, and there's sets of phones, and somebody's manning this phone, and somebody's manning that phone. And we have, and I said this when I sat up there with Josh after Brian's situation was uncovered, and we have firepower. We have lots of, you know, highly skilled people all around me. And so there is a collective effort with phones ringing, and you're looking at trades, and, you know, we go to boards and we assess them and we watch the draft unfold, and we make decisions and we move on. And so there is an incredible amount of teamwork that is required in that room. And it's not like you have time, you're on the clock. And because I think of the preparation that we put in, I thought Ned Cohen did a fantastic job, you know, helping organize us. The analytics side with Alex Rucker and Sergio Olivier, those 2 were awesome. And then I think Mark Eversley delivering the group. You know, these are the players with our scouts, and it was very collaborative. It was a systematic process that you felt like you're part of a team. This has been a really different June for me. And the room reflected that. But it especially reflected there was a lot of work that was put in preparation to arrive where you could make decisions on the fly, and I feel good decisions. I think with Landry, he's a combo guard, you know, like his ability to just play basketball and play the modern day game, and his character. You know, just I enjoyed the research on the person. I really enjoyed communicating with him on different levels, just talking to him about life and the game and so on. And then you saw him play. He got a lot of game. And I see him being a combo type of guard that can shoot, make plays, and I think really has a prideful approach to his defense that was very attractive to us.
Jessica Camerato, NBC Sports Philadelphia. Can you walk us through the second round picks and what you saw in each of them?
I mean, you go to 38 and we traded it. You know, we got 2 seconds from Detroit. You go to 39 and with Isaac, you know, I can't really comment on that until the end of the moratorium. You can read into that as you should. You know, we took 56 and 60 and traded to 54 and got to Shake Milton, who I think is incredibly interesting with a 7'1" wingspan and a 6'6", you know, frame that's again a combo type of player and high character. And I feel just tremendously confident and proud of the fact that the people that we have brought in are our type of people. It gets to a stage at this phase of our program where we know what we want. We know what we stand for. We know how we want to play. And so, like, the broad net that I used to live in when I first came here is getting smaller and smaller because you got Ben and Joel. There's an established style of play, and these people that we brought in, I think, reflect that. And I feel like the trades that we made to acquire future picks and move up a little bit closer to somebody that we really like Shake Milton, I think that the room was fantastic in organizing that effort to allow us to do that.
Brett, over here, George Sedano, ESPN. You mentioned the picks. You got that unprotected pick. Earlier, you had come out and said that, you know, you guys could potentially use that pick to hunt for a star. Because of where the organization is and the progress you guys made last year, what is the potential timeline for something like that, to try to nab and hunt for a star?
I think it's now. You know, you're trying to develop and hunt for stars now. I think we all wondered, what is the timeline, say, of Ben and Joel? The timeline is now. You know, we feel good to go where we can play with the best now. And we need some help. And so the whole, like, notion of the star hunting, star chasing, star development is at the forefront of everything that we do. And you know, I just like to go there to admit it to all of us. I know we understand that, but to just let's throw it out and call it for what it is helps ground decisions. That I think it helps justify decisions, tough decisions. Tonight was not easy. It was not easy. And you sent it at home plate about what is my job and the role that I have and what's the process that we got to go to get where we want to be. It's simple. It's not a mystery. And the time is now. And as I said, right when, you know, I sat up with Josh, we will be aggressive. And I hope that we will be smart. And I think that we have been. The human side of tonight is disturbing. But the process and how we grow the program and the thoughtfulness and the studies that we put in, I feel like is wise for the program.
Coach Marshall Harris, WIP. You mentioned the human side of things for you. How has this process and I guess the culmination of the draft itself, how different has it been for you as a general manager and that for a foray into that world as opposed to a coach and the human side of all the things you had to deal with leading up to this?
Very different, very different. And, you know, I said right when I accepted the responsibility that I have no intent of doing this. This is not what I want. I'm a basketball coach. And when this came up, I felt the responsibility to do the best that I could under the circumstances to help move us forward. And as I said earlier, you know, this is a very different June than I've experienced. Down deep, I love it. I love it because you just bleed for the program. You know, you'll do whatever you can to bring a championship to this city. That's the bottom line. And as we sort of corral the analytics people and the scouts and my coaching staff and the people that work in the building and try to hold us together and move us forward and show daylight, that's my job. And, you know, with my team, my players, that we're under control, we're good to go. We're going to jump into free agency in a moment. We're going to study and come out of the draft fine. And now we're going into a whole new world in free agency. And you start taking sort of the draft, free agency, and the development, the summer plans of our existing players. That's the holistic approach to how do we arrive to September good to go. And this has been a very different June for me, but I accept and want the responsibility. And, you know, tonight we'll sort of conclude a different phase of my role in this organization that I have been used to.
Brett, along the lines, sorry, Dee Lynam, in the way back.
Hi, Dee.
Along those lines of free agency, and I know you had to deal with tonight first, but do you already have a map, a plan, and similar to how tonight there was a 1 and a 1B, and you had to make decisions as free agency starts to play out? Will you have, and will tonight's experience maybe help you be able to, be on the fly, make some tough calls maybe again?
I think that it can't hurt. I think that tonight might be able to help a little. I feel that we are good to go despite whatever we might have learned tonight. I think that we're incredibly organized. We're streamlined on what we want to do. You know, you start thinking about, well, what do you do at 12:01? Last year it was J.J. Redick. You know, he and I were on that basket right there. In fact, is it past midnight? Yes, you know, so that's how that worked the last July 1. And, you know, what are you going to do in regards to almost synchronizing the order of who are you going to talk to first? How are you going to spend your money? And we are completely on track. When you talk about what are you going to do to sell your program, to show the program the way that we want it to be seen. Sometimes it's in-house. Sometimes you have to travel, and whether we have to go mobile, and as an example, go to Los Angeles and deal with, you know, a family, an agent, the player, whether we can attract them to come here to the city of Philadelphia, the whole strategy of how we do that, the presentation of information. We've been talking about that for a while, and so I feel completely confident that we will not miss a beat now that the draft is done, that we can focus on when free agency kicks in on July 1.
Brian Seltzer, Sixers.com. I think the 3 players you guys ended up getting were all here for workouts. Given your situation, for you personally, how much of a role did the workouts play? And just in trying to get caught up to speed on some of these guys, what influence did seeing them in person, talking to them in person have?
I mean, there's 2 things that happen for me at the workouts. First, you put them through a workout that reflects how we play. And you put them through a workout that if a scout, as an example, says, we're not really sure if he can penetrate with his left hand. We craft something that will give us more information. And so whether it's putting them in our own world and 76 of verbiage and 76 of structure, or zooming into something that we're unsure of. You know, can't run a pick and roll, can he finish with his left hand, whatever, and we just tee off on that and really put pressure on them in a situation that could be a weakness. And then third and finally, and you see me talk to them all, and then I speak to the ones that I want to learn a little bit more privately in my office. And so the system that we have put in place to learn as much as we can about the player, with those three players as an example that you spoke of that came in, you know, you just either, you know, dismiss or gain confidence in people. And you could, that notion that you said about, ironically, those three players were also drafted, there were lots of players that we dismissed. They just weren't our type of, you know, person or player or whatever. And it's very informative. It certainly is not the be-all or end-all. It's just one layer to lots of ways we study. But for me, it helps in those ways.
Sarah Todd, Philadelphia Inquirer again. Is the part that you were talking about, the human part that was disturbing, is that in reference to the situation with Mikhail?
Completely. That's all it is.
Did you have a conversation with him early on before the number 10 pick, and then have to go back, and were you able to have a conversation with him afterwards, and what was that like?
Well, there's a lot of questions in there, and I think I can try to tighten it up. You know, there's a 20-minute, 15-minute window where, you know, you play text tag with the people involved, and everybody in that room knew how excited I was personally. And as I said before, it really was. It was 1A and 1B. Like, we really, and they're really different, because Mikhail probably could come in and play now. You know, come in and really, like, embrace an immediate role now. And Zaire is this thing that can develop into something incredibly unique. I really feel that. And so there were two different styles of reasons why we chose who we chose and anointed them 1A and 1B. And so we make the draft, and, you know, emotions carry over that it's pretty cool. He's from Villanova, it's the city of Philadelphia. You can't make this stuff up. His mom works across the street, all that stuff. And then the human side of, wow, look at this deal. Like, look at this incredible godfather of a deal that can move our program forward in ways that we couldn't have imagined before this draft. And so you're caught. You really toggle between different emotions. And, you know, everybody here gets it. We all live here and, as I said, understand the city and all that. And it just, at the end of the day, you know, I think as time unfolds, we'll realize how important of a decision and an unusual an opportunity that we had that we just didn't feel responsible accepting. That's the human side of tonight. There's been text exchange with his sort of inner circle that that is tough, you know, and he's going to be great. Mikhail, you know, let's face it, the other side of the story is he's the 10th player chosen in the NBA. That's pretty impressive. And he's going to a Phoenix Suns program that is exciting. They get a lot of young players around him that they're in a different phase of their own growth. And so when you eliminate sort of the human side in the Philadelphia and the local side, you know, just look at what happened. He's in a good place. He's going to be around for a long time, and he knows what we think of him. We chose him 10th for a reason.
Dan Gelston, AP. Brett, what was the demand for your own players, if any?
What was the
demand for your own players on the roster already, if any, in any possible trades? And was your 1A for tonight ever to move up to maybe a top 5 pick?
We talked about all that. You know, we explored everything. Moving down, moving up, what's on the table, judging it for what it was. We didn't feel a prisoner to really any path. Like, the only path that matters is how do we get better? How do we improve assets? How do we get better players? Just like, you know, I'd say. And so we looked at it all. And, you know, early in the week, there was discussions that we had with different teams about moving up that kind of fell away. You know, some of it based on study, some of it based on medical reports. There were times that if you didn't feel like you're going to get 1A or 1B, then what? Do you trade down? And so all that was on the table. In relation to our own players, there were some things that came up tonight. I'm sure that'll happen over the course of time. but I think the night was definitely filled with a lot of moving parts. Some of those I just shared with you.
Brett, Tom Moore, sorry. Did you seriously consider Porter Jr. and were health concerns? How much of a factor were there in the decision, if I may?
We sure did. You know, he's that good. He is that good. And I won't comment, you know, on the health stuff. We give Denver credit. They made a decision. We did a few years ago with Joel Embiid. And, you know, that's the decision you make, and you just end up hoping you're right. And what I will say is that, as everybody understands, like if health weren't an issue, he's arguably a top 3 pick. And so the risk-reward is obviously there. And obviously in their judgment, they felt the reward outweighed the risk, and we give them credit for making that gutsy move. Thank you.